Hey everybody, just wanted to review a couple things about Unit 4 before we move into the poetry collection for the unit. Remember, the title of Unit 4 is All That Glitters. And I want to talk about our essential question as a reminder. Remember, the essential question is pretty much what all of the selections kind of tie back into. And the essential question for this unit is, what do our possessions reveal about us? Basically, what this is asking is, what are the things that we think are important and necessary for us to have? And what do those things reveal about us as either individuals or groups of people? I also want you to remember about the difference between needs and wants. Needs are things that we must have to survive, such as food, shelter, and water. Wants are those things that aren't necessarily necessities, but things that we would like to have. Things that maybe make us look good, things that make us happy, but things that do not mean we absolutely need them. And just also, I want you to think about what is considered valuable to one person may be completely worthless to another, and keep that in the back of your mind as well. Also, our PBA, our performance-based assessment reminder. First part of the question, how do we decide what we want versus what we need? And the second part, what can result from an imbalance between want and need? And both of these things actually were from the beginning of the unit in our discussion post. So if you would like to go back and look at your first answer to this, it's in that discussion post, and see if it changed since week 2. With that being said, the first poem that we're going to move into is Avarice by Yusef Komunyakaa. But before we take a look at that poem, I want to have you follow along with me as I read you some information about Yusef Komunyakaa. He was born in 1947. He grew up in New Orleans, where he was strongly influenced by the local culture that included the blues, jazz, and the Creole-influenced speech patterns of the city's inhabitants. Inhabitants are the people that live in that city. As a young man, Komunyakaa served his country in Vietnam, and some of his best poems focus on that time. Those poems capture both the physical and psychological toll of the war. The background to this poem is part of a series of 7 poems by Komunyakaa. Each one is named after the 7 deadly sins of medieval Christian theology. And basically, these were moral offenses that were considered particularly terrible. These sins were pride, avarice, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. And I want you to just get a little background on what each thing is. Pride, it's a feeling or deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. And it's okay to have a little bit of pride, but when you become too prideful, sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing. Avarice is extreme greed for wealth or some type of material gain. Lust is a passionate desire for something. Envy is a desire to have something that belongs to someone else. And then you have gluttony, extreme greed. Wrath, extreme anger, and sloth, extreme laziness. So the poem, Avarice. At 6, she chewed off the 7 porcelain buttons from her sister's christening gown and hid them in a Prince Albert can on a sill crisscrossing the house in the spidery crawl space. She'd weigh a peach in her hands till it rotted. At 16, she gazed at her little brother's June bugs pinned to a sheet of cork, assaying their glimmer, till she buried them beneath a fig tree's wide green skirt. Now, 26, locked in the beauty of her bones, she counts 8 engagement rings, at least 12 times a day.